Uncle Karis, miukwanga beast, muzo za west na bado muzo za east. Wanazibabol, wanazitoka, baada ya ofisi, baada ya mboka. Wako makwede, wako mokoka, line busy, pigia soja. Wanatupa bra, wengine wanatupa ngoda. Toto wa priest, Golgotha. Why? Zimelipuka ka transformer, na siogopi hata kuchoma. Why? Zimelipuka ka transformer, na siogopi hata kuchoma. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low, next year be patrol. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low. Check you what's up on the hoe. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low, next year be patrol. Let's go low, let's go low. Feel the freshness. Uncle Karis, miukwanga beast, muzo za west na bado muzo za east. Wanazibabol, wanazitoka, baada ya ofisi, baada ya mboka. Wako makwede, wako mokoka, line busy, pigia soja. Wanatupa bra, wengine wanatupa ngoda. Toto wa priest, Golgotha. Why? Zimelipuka ka transformer, na siogopi hata kuchoma. Why? Zimelipuka ka transformer, na siogopi hata kuchoma. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low, next year be patrol. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low. Check you what's up on the hoe. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low, next year be patrol. Let's go low, let's go low, let's go low. Check you what's up on the hoe. Akina shino huku ni wapi? Nimezungukwa na masamba bani, brush imejaa na mastakabadi. Basi tunakwanga mbugia kupiga makali, foundation lazima kupiga biriani. Na taxi nimeja kijabulani, tuko best kiuliza uhali gani. Ayeye ati along lilo, tranquilo, madongo dongo, pia matindo. A baby girl give me some, adwa bilo. Let's go low, let's go low,
Happy Friday.
Let's go low.
Made it to the end of the week.
2
minutes past the top of the hour. 19 actually.
Let's go low.
Oh yes sir, yes sir. All right.
So I hope you're feeling happy, like the song is saying. Feel grateful for everything.
Move and shake it.
Life, health.
We cannot fake it. Kila mtu na masingo deadly. Leo mpaka nimechoma pegi. Generosity sitaseki. Usifute hiyo kitu hapa kani feki. Mama reglance nimezicheki. Nibaye jezi, nikupe mechi. Anti, mali safi. Ametoka Kisii. Gaki.
Yes, karibuni sana. This is the Pan-African Bliss right here on the middle of the 21st century. And you guys are listening to the one and only JOBY. That's my name. Shout out to everyone who has been with us right here on the Black Fire Network. Amazing first-time listeners. I hope you guys are doing amazing today. Your week has been fantastic, and I beg you or urge you to hit that subscription button and like button as we start with today's conversation. We're going to be learning something interesting, or rather discussing something very interesting, and this is regarding about how slavery has affected Africans and African Americans' mental health, and this is still to date. And of course, we're going to be looking back on how especially the American system has been built. I'm going to be sharing a video of this lady who's explaining so much, and how her being a psychologist, how she helps Black communities, Black people to tackle and learn how to live in this white built up racist system. So that is what we're going to be discussing majorly. And of course, I'm going to be starting with other videos as we talk about how, of course, we know not just slavery, but how these people have used our, how do I say, mentally I'd say mentally, how these people have managed to lock us down, to not understand so many things that happen around us, how the system has been built. I think it was yesterday where I was saying, shout out to Keith for correcting that, is that I've grown up into a system, or we've grown up into a system of lies, to the point when you now know so much and you see now everything on a clear lens, let me use that, on a clear lens, you get to question them. Is it that the country, or I'm living in a more worse system, or has the system been that way? But you understand, actually the system has been this way. It's just that they have hid so much information. They've hidden so much information from us, to the point when you discover all this, still it's a lot on your mentality. I don't know if it really makes sense. So that is what we're going to be focusing on today majorly, and also looking at a bit on how we have the South Africans still, how they're going crazy. We're going to be discussing that towards the end of the show. Much more of the conversations coming from still South Africa, how we have undocumented foreigners who are seeking safety. But I saw a video of how actually most of them, and I believe this is actually some Nigerian men, but they gathered up together and united. They were like telling South Africans, we dare you come where we are at this point. That is what we need to be doing. United. The moment we understand how much or what unity can do, because that video has been going viral of how I think it's Nigerians, the group of Nigerians or Africans who are, of course, being disturbed by South Africans, how they came together and the South Africans backed off. Literally, they walked away. So we're going to be focusing on that, and much more of the conversation coming from also Kenya, as Kenya, actually, the Kenyan court has ended teen sex prosecution. So we're going to be focusing on this. Lately, we've been having many cases of children, women being found dead under unclear circumstances. Most of them, if the postmortem results come back, you find that they were either raped and then strangled and killed. Many cases right now of insecurity. We were talking about that even yesterday. They have really risen, and it's really, really alarming. But before we get to that, kindly grab yourself some of the amazing supplements we have. Love to share some beetroot and the benefits it comes with. And you can only find this by downloading our app on the Google Play Store. Black Hot Fire Network is the name. I hope you guys have been amazing. Your week has been fantastic. And stay healthy also as you get into the weekend.
Beetroot, nature's powerhouse. Packed with vitamins, antioxidants, and nitrates, it's known to support heart health, boost stamina, and improve blood circulation. Our beetroot is naturally grown and harvested at peak ripeness. The roots are cleaned, dried, and finely ground to preserve their rich nutrition content, giving you all the benefits in one pure form. Add 1 teaspoon of beetroot powder to your juice, smoothie, or water, or take it in capsule form as recommended by your healthcare provider. Beetroot helps enhance endurance, lower blood pressure, and keep you feeling energized and balanced all day. Fuel your body with the natural power of beetroot. Stay strong, stay healthy. Go get this product at blackhotfirenetwork.com at the Sports and Nutrition Store.
A very affordable price. And as we get started, shout out to Dr. Arikana. I remember, and it's not just Dr. Arikana, but I'm using as an example because she talks about it a lot. She said that the enemy of Africans, or the African's enemy, is the mentality, the mindset, how we see things, how we fathom things, how we view the world, how we view the system, politicians, a lot of things that have been set up to work against us, literally not for us. They have ensured that our mentality is our biggest enemy. And this way you can see, I'd say a good example is when it comes to religion. A good example is myself. When I was told, again, I love going back to that because of the shock I had. And when I try relating, when I was trying to question how the people who have grown up in the same system of lies, how they told me, you can't question that. How dare you? When Kid told me about Jesus all being a lie and all that, I was shocked, I was really shocked. And that is one of the things we've seen recently. Even on yesterday's conversation, if you try to go back what we're talking about, Black people have failed to fight for justice or fight for power because we're so much caught up in these lies, continuing doing things that we don't even know who set up these things, we think it's okay. God is going to fight for us. God is going to do and bring us justice. It doesn't work that way, and it will never. So that is what we're going to be talking about. And I want to start with this video right here as we continue.
Especially Black people in the African continent, we are under a huge spell that has disconnected us from our ancestral way of practicing, our ways of defending evil from ourselves. And then they gave us this blue-eyed blonde Jesus. What most shocked me when I went to Ghana was seeing so much blue-eyed blonde Jesus and seeing so many colonial flags hanging. In Africa, we may face a lot of enemies, but our biggest enemy is our own mental slavery that we still sit in. We're still colonized in the mind. We believe whiteness is the only existence for us to succeed. So we have to be like them. We have to go like them. I always ask, I'm born in a Muslim family. The question I ask mostly Black people is, why does God has to choose white God and a brown God for the Arabs? Why hasn't been a Black prophet? Why hasn't it been a Black God? Why do we have to worship other people's image of God while we have our own image of gods? I think it's time to decolonize religion.
This is what psychological slavery.
So let me go back.
I believe that we are really in a...
Let me go back to that. Sorry, I was on a phone call. Someone called me. But anyway, yeah. Africa's biggest enemy is our mindset. I want to play it again and second what he's saying.
Especially Black people in the African continent, we are under a huge spell that has disconnected us from our ancestral way of practicing, our ways of defending evil from ourselves. And then they gave us this blue-eyed blonde Jesus. What most shocked me when I went to Ghana was seeing so much blue-eyed blonde Jesus and seeing so many.
It's all over Africa, you know, it's all over Africa. And it's crazy because now when you look at it, you see white people don't really even F with this Christianity bullshit like the way Black people do, you know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see white people all focused on this Christianity bullshit. I mean, they are. Don't get me wrong. I've seen, you know, a good example is the Joel Austin, because I've grown up missing all these big pastors, reverends, whatever. And I could see white people. Joel Austin's church was full of white people, full of Black people. Talk about Teddy Jacks. Is it Teddy Jacks? Teddy Jacks, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. His church was full of Black people and a bunch of also white people. But I feel like when you look at Black people, how they embrace religion and white people, it's quite different. And unless I'm wrong, I stand corrected. So it's all over Africa, it's all over the world, but Africans, we've taken this as part of our history. We don't even know our history anymore. And this is why when we try, or someone else who knows history, has read our history, know so much about us, and they come tell us something about us, like, now get out of here. You're trying to make some story, some fairy tales, right? You're trying to make some fairy tales. And it takes literally, I believe, someone, like we're saying, maybe someone who lived in different dimensions, or in their past lives, they were just so much informed that they came back with some knowledge for you to allow your brain to accept this knowledge. Because, trust me, people are really mentally locked down.
Colonial flags hanging. In Africa, we may face a lot of enemies, but our biggest enemy is our own mental slavery that we still sit in. We're still colonized in the mind. We believe whiteness is the only existence for us to succeed. So we have to be like them. We have to go like them. I always ask, I'm born in a Muslim family. The question I ask mostly Black people is, why does God has to choose white God and a brown God for the Arabs? Why hasn't it been a Black prophet? Why hasn't it been a Black God? Why do we have to worship other people's image of God while we have our own image of gods? I think it's time to decolonize religion.
I feel like it goes back to what we were still discussing yesterday, how they consume our energy, you know, how they feed on our energy. So instead of feeding back our energy to ourselves, talking, you know, positive about ourselves, you know, looking life on a positive angle, you know, just being in the right vibration, if I'm using the right terms, right? We focus on, oh my God, if I end up being with a white man, my life is good. If I pray to this white Jesus, life is good. As a matter of fact, I need to drop, you know, going out, chilling, and, you know, just be a church girl. I need to be that church man. I need to be I need to be closer to Jesus so that my life can get better. Where? How many? And shout out to that. There's that video I was sharing yesterday that kids shared with me. That lady was saying, you've had politicians, you have so many people who have succeeded without ever going to church because they know this is all some bullshit. They are continuously taking wealth from us, stealing in front of our very own eyes as they fund these churches that you go spend money and yet you don't even have money. You go spend all your savings that you've been working for a whole week so that Jesus can give you blessings. Your blessings are here to demand. The people who are actually who are taking hold of your blessings or what belongs to you is the same people who have given us this mental enslavement where we have to be locked down of never thinking about anything good about ourselves, but thinking it only gets better if we're involved with them. And this is why you see these politicians have maintained the same system, the same narrative, the same thinking. They have not changed the system of education because it works directly straight to the white man. You know, keep on funding churches, spend money on churches, don't educate these people anything that is important to them. And now you ask, what's wrong with Black people today? It's a lot. It's a lot. Because I'm saying, even despite you being woke, and it is the right time of woke, despite you being spiritually awakened, and you know so much and how the world works, it's still a lot. Personally, I find it sometimes a lot. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I get on the internet and I see some things to do with other politics, religion, and I'm really effed up in the mind. I'm already exhausted. I'm like, damn, this is too much, you know? Because you know what you're looking at. You know what you're listening to. You know what you're seeing. It's still too much. But now imagine the person who is not informed. It's crazy.
This is what psychological slavery looks like. Mm-hmm. Take a listen.
Trump is the first Black president. Amen. Because he's the first one.
Wow. Oh my God. What? Hold on. What? Hold on.
This is what psychological slavery looks like. Take a listen.
Trump is the first Black president. Amen. Because he's the first one that has actually addressed issues in the Black community.
Wow.
Like, Obama didn't do it.
He said it, not me.
I mean, in my lifetime, I've gone through Clinton, Bush.
You hear that's a white person laughing, literally saying he said it, I didn't. This is so bad. Yes, Obama didn't do anything for the Black community, didn't change a lot for the Black community, or even probably nothing. But are you blind? Trump is what?
And Obama. Neither of them have done anything.
They certainly haven't advocated for responsibility and taking ownership of your own life and knowing that you are an individual and that in America, you have freedom. We defined you as free.
They didn't even put America first. Yeah, guys. You know, Donald J. Trump puts America first. So you got to love that man.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, he does. And where is America today? Oh, yeah, he does. Where is America today? Because, like we keep on saying, people forget when it comes to politics, left or right, these people are the same. But that's something else we're not taught. We're not meant to see that. We're meant to see political parties, oppositions, and thinking, oh, this one actually is for a change because of the manifestos they're laying to you. That is what they want you to hear. And I always say it's Africa, actually, it's globally. We've been set up in a system of living in hope, under hopes. Oh, I'm going to change this for the Black community. I'm going to change this. I'm going to ensure this. Then when they get into power, they'll continue fulfilling the same agenda, the cut to the heart that they want. They're not there to favor you or me. They're there to favor the people who are keeping them in charge and in this position.
Got to.
You guys, this event is absolutely incredible. What's happening in this country, what's happening here in the heart of Los Angeles, California. We are flipping California red. And we are taking America back for red, white, and blue. All colors, all flavors, all races, all religions. It's all e pluribus unum, from the many one. We are one people, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all. 4 more years.
4 more years for Trump.
Okay, so let's be real now. This isn't about a brother in a MAGA hat, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is about a disease in our community. a deep generational brainwashing that makes us defend the very system that was built
Exactly.
to keep us down.
Exactly.
That is not freedom, my brothers and sisters. That is psychological slavery. When I see a black man calling Trump the first black president, I don't see pride. I see pain that has not been processed.
And shame.
I see
And shame at the same time. Not even just pride, pain, and shame. Because it's a shame. It is a shame. Karibu sana Kate. I knew you'd pop in
I know.
somehow.
I had to say something because that moron LA just took it to another level. This moron just said, as Trump is taking away all your voting rights, moron, putting you back in something called Jim Crow. And that's what I'm talking about, the educational system on purposely keeping black people stupid globally. This is a moron. And the white people around him know he's a moron because they're happy and they're racist as hell. This has been the most openly racist administration we've had in America, at least in the last 60, 70 years, openly racist. They're all racist, but they pretended not to be, right? You know, what we got really bad was Reagan. Reagan, you know, like somebody said, Reagan's when you knew America was done because he was stupid, right? So we knew that America's, because Trump is even stupid. Okay, we talking about how stupid Ronald Reagan was in the 80s and racist as hell, right? Clinton comes along and then hides the racism. We know he's racist, but he hides it and can pretend. And then we get George Bush after him, right? Jr. We get George Bush Jr., who's a moron. Trump makes George Bush Jr. looks like a goddamn Einstein. That's how stupid and dumb Trump is. Trump is a moron on steroids, and he's openly racist, openly attacks black people, openly racist, cutting up all your damn history in your schools. He wants the word black taken out of all your textbooks. That was erasing all your history. And this moron talking, yeah, Trump fights for black people. This how you know you got mental. I don't know if you're retarded. How do you make these conclusions? But see, this would be a house Negro. He would allow white people to just smack him in the head and face and ask for more. This is absolutely crazy in today's age that you're even defending this nonsense, because even the white people know that he's not America first. They call him what he is. He's Israeli first. And they know that. That's why you got a civil war within this fake Republican Party. As Joby got it correctly, there is no right, there is no left, because the same people control both sides of the fence. Those are things as the left wing and the right wing. That's the scam to keep you fighting while the people at top control everything. So it's all opposition party, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and this is global. This is the global structure to make sure they stay on top. Ain't it funny? No matter who's in power, whether you get a Democrat or Republican or in another country, the party and the opposition party get power, but nothing ever changes. Nothing changes. Poor people stay poor, fucked up, and keep with the goofy religions. As you're always asking what about the religion. The religion's there to keep this mental enslavement. But a lot of people starting to wake up knowing it's a lie. But so I'm gonna leave. I just want to say that this is absolutely, and sadly, black people do suffer from mental colonization. You've been so mind controlled the last 500 years that you, or what they call Stockholm syndrome, you worship your actual enslaver. You worship the people that abuse you. And the term for that is called Stockholm syndrome. Okay? Anybody can look that up. Stockholm syndrome. So that's what black people globally have been suffering under, because you've been dominated by a savage group of people. I'm being nice. Savage. I mean savage in every name of the word. You've been dominated. We've been dominated by savages. So, and so that's just been the problem. But let me let you go, Joey.
Yeah, I say Stockholm syndrome is psychological coping mechanism where victims are of abuse, captivity, develop positive feelings or loyalty towards their captures, and it is a survival strategy triggered by extreme trauma, fear, and powerlessness, where they bond with an abuser to reduce their perceived threat to life. This is so crazy. And that is what Africans are going through. Literally, I said we've been made powerless. Literally, that's why I go back to that lady who was saying that, you guys are so focused on your religion while politicians are getting rich. People are getting rich who have never even gone to church and all that, and you're busy there not fighting for what you need to fight for. You think, oh, God is going to forgive him. When will you ever get justice? Because when will you ever get justice? In the name of God, when will you ever get justice? It's super crazy, man.
He's somebody who's been so down by the system, so hungry for identity, that he grabs the first thing that makes him feel powerful, even if it's a lie. Let me say this loud and clear. Trump is not and never will be the first Black president. He's the first to convince some of us that our liberation lies in submission. He's the first to wear racism in plain sight while using Black faces as political props to say, see, I can't be racist. And some of y'all fell for it hard. But it's not just him. It's a systemic strategy. Replace our history with propaganda. Feed us toxic masculinity and call it strength. Preach personal responsibility while defunding our schools, stealing our votes, locking us up, and calling our leaders thugs. That's not love, y'all. That's manipulation. Now, don't get me wrong. We have every right to criticize past Democratic leaders, even Obama. But please don't ever confuse critique with betrayal. Don't sell your soul to the same movement that would have had your grandmother picking cotton with a smile just because they told you you're different. You want to be a patriot? Cool, be one. But please don't co-sign a man who banned DEI programs, praised Confederate statues, refused to say Black Lives Matter, told the police to rough up suspects, aka us, and tried to erase the teachings of slavery and racism in schools. You can't wear a red hat and act like you represent freedom when you're parroting white nationalism in Black skin. The truth is, this behavior is not confusion. It's survival trauma. It's what happens when we've been lied to so long, we start mistaking our oppressor for our protector. But here's the truth. Responsibility without justice is just obedience. Patriotism without truth is just propaganda. And loyalty to a man who wouldn't defend your humanity, that's not love, bro. That's captivity. And to all my people now, this is bigger than him. We got to stop laughing at this and start healing from this. Because this is not comedy. This is conditioning. So this is something I want to challenge you to do. Study your history. Guard your mind. Speak truth in love, but never sugarcoat reality. And when you see a brother or sister lost in that MAGA fog, don't just roast them, reach for them. Because if we don't educate our own, they're going to keep weaponizing our ignorance against us. We are not props. We are not pawns. We are not confused. We are the descendants of warriors, revolutionaries, kings, queens, and freedom fighters. Act like it. Speak like it. Vote like it.
Period.
What would mental slavery look like? Not chains, not whips, but control of your thoughts, your fears, your loyalty, your identity. Imagine being taught from childhood that you were born broken, that you owe absolute...
It's literally a system of control. And if you look at it now, their agenda where they're going towards 2030 is now where they want to fully take control of everything you do. It's not like they don't control.
Exactly, Joe. Exactly. No, you don't. They don't control everything. That's what they're trying to do. It's full control, Joe. Exactly right. They want to control your thoughts, Joe. How you think in your head. That's what this is real. The science exists. They didn't know they got enough science now that they can now control your thoughts in your head from these towers, Joe. It's most diabolical, evil, wicked shit. We go there.
Exactly. It's like we are a program, you know, the operators
Yeah.
like programs. From the moment
That's
you're born, they decide
exactly.
which medications you're gonna be injected. They decide you're gonna go to school in a system that keeps you not educated of your own truth. Finish school, you're there. You don't have a job. You start demonstrating, and if you demonstrate, that is wrong because you're not supposed to ask for a job. While they told you go to school, study this, and I will give you a job in this industry. You finish, like it's just like a program, and you have to keep on going without questioning. And now they want to put you now in that system completely, controlling your phone. They already do that, but now more controlling your speech, controlling how you everything.
Show your money, control. That's why shout out to the Kenyans are telling you, hey, y'all better get out there and pay some shit, because now they're gonna still just start stealing your money because you got they were setting you up with convenience and you not using cash. So it's like it's locking you down. So what they want to do it globally, but they tried in Africa first. You know, actually Kenya, most of Africa has the Kenyan system. The non-money system is their test place. They want to take that globally. So now they can, you have no access to your money. They can just take it out, lock you down. It's evil. It's always evil with these people. Go ahead, Jim.
Obedience, that questioning is dangerous and doubt is sinful. Outsiders are evil or broken and lost. Leaving means punishment, and disobedience brings suffering. That loyalty is rewarded and submission is a virtue. Your mind doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the system. Now ask yourself, if someone controlled where you could go, what you could eat, who you could marry, and punished you for disobedience, we would call that slavery. So what do we call it when a system controls what you're allowed to think, what you're allowed to question, who you're allowed to love, what happens if you leave, and uses fear of eternal punishment to keep you in line?
Still the same thing.
Devoted Christians and Muslims are taught submit completely, obey without question, fear the consequences of leaving, and trust authority over your own mind. That isn't freedom. That's ownership of your thoughts. Physical slavery owns bodies. Religious indoctrination aims to own minds.
Exactly, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking how religion told us obey your father and mother, or don't disobey your. Why can't I disobey? Of course I can. I'm a child. These people gave birth to me to guide me in this world. I'm not born being intelligent for me to understand, oh, this is right and this is wrong. They are the ones who are supposed to guide me. And out of that guidance, it's not supposed to be coming with these caning beatings that we, the African people, have grown up with. You need to beat a child to almost towards death. So you can feel that you're really punishing someone and they're going to get that information locked in their minds. You're creating fear. I'm not supposed to be scared of you as my parent. I'm supposed to be feeling safe around you. I'm supposed to go.
Exactly. But, Joby, that's not your tradition. That violence came in with the Europeans. They taught you that. Africans didn't beat their children. So that's not your culture.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy now that if we had critical thinking, whether being taught to us or being born with it, for those who are born with it, this is where you start asking, how is it that this religion, this is telling me to be scared of this, or if you don't do this, or don't do this, you'll be, what? Your days will be reduced. Who is going to reduce my days? The only thing I know reducing my days of living is what we're eating right now. These injections that we don't know what people are injecting, all these things coming with their system. Those are the things reducing the number of, and we saw that even yesterday from the video, how long Africans could live to thousands of years, hundreds of years. But today, a lifespan is literally 40, 50, 60. If you get to 70, it's even like a miracle, or even 80. That's why you see people celebrating the people who have gotten to the age gap of 100 plus, because it's like a miracle in today's generation, because they're killing us.
And honestly, mental chains can be harder to break than physical ones.
Of course.
If you cannot call wrong as wrong, you are at the last stage of slavery. Slavery is not always chains. It is not always physical. Sometimes it is psychological. When fear controls your voice, when pressure reshapes your morals, when comfort silences your conscience, that is captivity. The moment you see injustice and hesitate to name it, something inside you has been restrained. Power does not only dominate bodies, it conditions minds. It trains people to normalize what should never be accepted. If wrong becomes complicated, if truth becomes dangerous, if silence becomes safer, then freedom is already fading. Courage begins with clarity. Clarity begins with honesty. To call wrong is not rebellion, it is integrity. A free mind recognizes truth, even when it is costly. Because the final stage of control is not when you are forced to obey, it is when you willingly stop resisting.
Period.
You don't give immunity to the military just like that. It's normally for war crimes. Every second drill has been about Macron. Understood? The one thing that is carrying me, and I don't think many people are talking about, is the fact that this incompetent, insecure, tiny man that you have given all this power has decided to give a military base to the French at the coast. The only people I've seen speak about this have said that they are postulating that it's because of the minerals there, but you don't give immunity to the military just because of minerals. You did because of the war crimes that happened before they get to the minerals. This is the math I'm playing. I'm not saying this is what happened. I wasn't there, obviously. I'm just saying, according to me, legal disclaimer, with the math I'm doing, this is what is likely happening. You have a president who's up for re-election next year, knows he's widely unpopular, knows the only way he can win is by illegality or violence, has an appetite for violence, but probably does not have the capacity to enact widespread violence across the country. In comes a colonizer with, oh my gosh, the perfect CV.
Exactly. See, and people are connecting the dots. That is this is what I love about my country, literally. People are connecting the dots too. So people understanding this is not just us inviting our colonizers, people who have a history of doing, of genocide, let's call it what it is, going around killing people and all that. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes, yes, that's what it is. And you guys, and shout out to Kenyans, you guys as Africans, you guys are one of the smartest ones now. You guys do know what it is. You know what's going on.
Exactly, because Ruto knows he's unpopular, and our Kenya Defense Forces, of course, they're not meant to turn against the citizens. And still, with the little power of the police officers he has, it's not going to be enough to scare Kenyans away. We have shown this man we can overpower him, and he's scared, super scared. Super scared. So what he does is invite the French who have been kicked out in the West, in West Africa, to come, because this is going to give us easily access of some weapons we've never seen in this country, ever. We're going to select. She's talking about immunity. Immunity means either before the extraction of resources and even after. So these people can work well together even during the elections times. If Kenyans are going to be stubborn and not accepting Ruto as the president of this country.
Yeah, the French are going to step in and start killing you. Exactly.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Widespread destabilization across African countries.
Exactly.
Proper person to kidnap. We have a lot to talk about. I think the deal was, I'll sort out your 2027 problem for you. You just have to give my troops immunity.
Yep.
And when we're done, we'll share whatever is left. But your president is the type to just get 5%, as long as he's sharing in the Mzungu. The thing is, you guys keep on saying 2027, and I keep on telling you there'll be nothing. If you're not playing a fair game, even people who just sit to Kokadi, I'm just like, the naivety is just at it's at a peak. During my times, people had the right to vote. And what were you doing still? The 1-9 system. This is a very apt, I mean, whatever, student of boys, at least on my Missouri. You're not on the same playing field. You're not thinking about playing fair. You're thinking about elections and going through the legal system. Him is thinking about how I can get rid of you. And I'm saying that based on the way he's acted in the past during the finance bill, Mandamano 1 and 2. If you're not going to organize militarily alongside getting your voter's card, if you don't know how to shoot a gun, if you don't know how to do some combat, if you don't know how to survive, like survival skills, what are you doing? And before you get there, if I've asked you guys countless times to creatively come up with a way to get this man out of office without having blood on your hands, because you do not want to turn into him. That's what I've been saying. You might get the job done, but you might turn into him in the process, and I'm not asking that. So your options are creatively find a way to get this man out of office before 2027.
It won't happen.
The problem we have in this country is because we are suffering from mental slavery. Over 300 years ago, our parents sold our brothers and sisters into slavery. 300 years later, we are still selling ourselves into slavery. Those days, the price for the slaves were trinkets, beads, gunpowder, gin, and so on. The price today is foreign aid. The price today is political influence. The country itself is not indigenous. Even the coup, we are blaming the military. I believe there is the author of one of the books I have read in this conference who stated that the idea of a coup was first suggested in one of the military conferences they attended in America. I was particularly struck by a conversation I had with a Greek professor. He told me his opinion of why West Europeans were supporting the rebellion against Nigeria. It was, he said, common among Westerners to sympathize with the underdog in any dispute, which in this case happens to be the Eastern Igbo. But what was even more important to the West was that Nigeria was a potential rival power in Africa, a force which had to be checked before it becomes a threat to Western European interests on the continent. He said that according to certain estimates, Nigeria was sitting on a keg of oil, which, given a suitable condition, would make it so rich in just 10 years, that is by 1978, that Nigeria would not require any aid from Europe. Indeed, Nigeria would be in a position to assist other African countries.
The whole thing, he's right, pause that. I don't mean to keep destroying Joby's show. Exactly. So they understand they had to destroy Nigeria because Nigeria is supposed to be a superpower. But sadly enough, the African man is a moron. And he's easily still, like, through mental slavery, they've allowed the African man has allowed the white people to dismantle Nigeria. It's a failed state now. Nigeria is supposed to be a superpower with its wealth and its numbers, much wealthier than China, much wealthier than Russia. And so systematically the West went in there, they never sought to dismantle it, to make it not a threat to their white power. And black people, the slave minds they are, help them destroy their own power. Go ahead, Joby, sir.
And thus undermine an important basis on which European influence was exercised over them. He did not therefore think that Europe would stand idly by and watch Nigeria become to Africa what the United Nations had become to Western Europe. He assured me that whatever happened in the future, the West would never allow Nigeria to develop to a position where its wealth and power would threaten West European interests in Africa.
That's why they have puppets. That's why we have Tinubu. That's why we have puppets. Because if you have an Ibrahim Traore and you are in the right mind and you know history, you know who you're dealing with and how they've been benefiting off your back, and you're like, nah, this is my country. This is not a toilet where you walk in and out.
Exactly, Joe.
This is not a slum toilet where you just walk in and out and you don't even flush or pour water. No, it's not, because that's what the white people have made Africa. They take the good out of it and leave the place so damaged, the people dead. They don't care. They really don't care. That's why we have puppets. We have Ruto here for a goddamn reason. And probably this was all along a plan that they have been literally, this is not, of course, this is nothing just an abrupt. This is something they have been setting up for the longest time. Since probably this man became a president or before. This
but they've been setting it up for over 30 years. That's why he didn't go. That's why they didn't put him in the Hague in 2007. And Uhuru, exactly. They plan everything.
I'm going to turn to this video of this lady. She's a psychologist, and she's talking about, shout out to the guy number one. I love the way he was introducing the interview, saying that the same thing I say, before we get to understand why we are where we are, we have to go back to history. We have to go back to understanding what really happened and why are we still affected by the same issues today.
VRProud.com presents Candid Conversations, Breaking Barriers of Black Mental Illness. Now, here are your hosts, Jaron Jordan and Tavarius Hayward.
We start this part of our Candid Conversations talking about the past. We can't understand where we are now without understanding our past. Today, we have Dr. Thema Bryant. She currently teaches psychology at the Graduate School of Education and Psychology at Pepperdine University. She's also known around the world for her work in psychology. She is a representative for the American Psychological Association for the United Nations, and she is a very popular podcast host and it's called Homecoming. Dr. Thema, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
No, I'm going to kick things off. Now, this psychological disturbance that we see today in many African Americans surrounding mental health did not come overnight. Can you talk a little bit about where we are now and take us back to the very beginning before our ancestors were forced to America?
Yes, thank you so much for raising this, because it is important for us to consider trauma on multiple levels. We have the trauma of a global pandemic, we have the trauma of contemporary racism, and we also have the trauma of what is called historical or intergenerational or ancestral trauma. And so recognizing the ways in which those consequences still show up for us today. So some may wonder, how is trauma passed down through the generations? A part of it is through our stories and what we are told. It also affected the parenting styles of our ancestors.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like slightly to just also interrupt what she's saying, if we go back to how trauma is passed down through generations, I go back to how women or how men were being tortured in front of their women, and kids seeing this, the woman seeing this, the kids seeing this, the woman being forced to teach or instill some certain, fear in the kid. Mm-hmm. So it starts from literally not just how has this been. It's deep rooted.
Exactly. That's the trauma. That's the trauma you're talking about in Africa. Why they beat their children in Africa now, because the trauma of colonization and men getting beat and savage. You'll be doing colonialism in Africa. So that trauma is passed on. And that's why history is so important to understand it, so you can break the trauma.
Mm-hmm. When you are in danger, you raise your children differently in terms of the level of fear and the need to be vigilant. Mm-hmm. It also shows up in our bodies. There's an impact neurologically in our brains and physiologically in our bodies, and also through observations. We observed how our parents or grandparents would act in certain circumstances, and those were pieces that taught us how to try to function and survive. And so it is important that we think about healing the wounds of what has happened to us directly, as well as the wounds of what has happened to our ancestors, because it affects us in depression and anxiety and substance dependence, coping with emotional eating, and all of these different.
Exactly. And I feel like they even made it now worse, despite now mentally having Black people mentally tortured and full of fear. They now brought drugs, so Black people didn't know how to cope with a system that was just against them. So pulling up drugs or bringing drugs, which has now made most of the Black people, Black communities be dependent of them. Because I've been watching a couple of videos of people talking about how anxiety. Some people, they smoke because of anxiety, or they drink because they're anxious, or different types of feelings that you have. So I've been trying to understand, what could this be all rooted from, because I feel like if the Black wealth was allowed to continue growing, or Black people were allowed to just be, a lot would have been prevented. But because of poverty, oppression, a lot of things, I think they've made Black people to now rely on this, which is to destroy us too. These drugs and all these substances, literally, the cocaine, the crack, all that.
Ways, as well as distrust. It affects our relationship with others, as well as our relationship with ourselves.
Doctor, help us understand the importance of the enslaved Black minds.
So when we think about psychology from the perspective of Black psychology, we want to raise liberation and empowerment, that we are not just looking to help people to cope with a system that is built on racism, that is built on white supremacy, but to really, what we would say, decolonize our minds or liberate our minds to be able to see ourselves as worthy, to be able to honor our humanity and the humanity of our sisters and brothers, siblings within the community, and for us to not define ourselves by the messages that we have received about our false inferiority.
Exactly.
And so these messages, they show up in the media, they show up in the educational system, they show up in the criminal justice system. All of these systems often will teach Black youth that they are less or that they are inferior. And so it takes an active resistance to that to truly recognize our worth, our value, our dignity, our humanity, and our resilience. And that is when we are fighting against what we call internalized racism. Internalized racism is when you come to believe the lies you have been told about yourself. And so if you actually believe that our community is less moral or less intelligent or less beautiful, then you have internalized those beliefs that you have been taught. And so we need to actively recognize an important saying, which is culture is medicine. Culture is medicine. It is healing to be able to discover the beauty, the genius, the wisdom of those who came before us, because we do not only inherit ancestral wounds, but we also inherit ancestral wisdom. And so learning how we can not only survive, but also thrive.
My next question, I have about 3 questions in one. So I live here in South Louisiana, which is called plantation country. And on these plantations, we've read and we've researched the horrible treatment and harsh conditions of Black people. Enslavers didn't even see us as humans. Can you define generational trauma? Talk about how these conditions of slavery on the plantation shaped those Black folks back then, and the toll that it took on our ancestors. Also, how this generational trauma is passed down from our grandparents to our great-grandparents, etc.
Thank you so much for raising this question in this conversation. When we have experienced trauma, we also can experience what are called triggers or reminders. What are the things that bring to mind or bring to even your emotions or to your physical body a remembrance of what happened? And for many of us, the plantation is a trigger, is a reminder of those experiences. And so what did plantation life teach us? One of the things that it taught us was to try to fly under the radar, to try to be invisible, that if you stood out, you could be targeted. And so many times people within our community will recognize that if I really shine in class or if I really shine in my career, there are ways in which visibility can be dangerous for us and can be harmful. And so sometimes we can shrink back. Another piece that was taught on the plantation was a competitiveness instead of collaboration.
And so our community is largely culturally collectivistic. But when you get into a setting where some people are pitted against other people, whether we talk about house slaves or field slaves, or whether we talk about the issue of colorism, that there are ways in which we have been taught by design not to trust each other. And so then a part of our healing is healing our relationship within the community. But not only did we learn some things that are damaging, but we also learned some things that highlight our skills and wisdom. And so innovation, when we think about soul food taking scraps and making an entire meal. And so the ways in which that gets passed down, of course, the challenge becomes how we can celebrate that while also taking care of our health and our wellness is an important piece. Another important piece for us to remember from the plantation is how we learn to cope. A big piece of our healing and our resistance was our art and our spirituality. And so the drum is
music. That's why I see, go back to some conversation we were having last week when we had this white guy who was studying slavery, and he said that they should not have allowed black people to sing. That is even crazy. Like, talking about some really crazy mindset, some really crazy psychological thinking.
It's powerful.
Like pathetic thinking.
And the drum is a way to communicate, which is why on many plantations the drum was banned. And so in our music, in our singing, in our dancing, in our stitching, in our pottery, those are acts of our wellness. And then along with our expressive arts is our spirituality, that our faith has been a big part of the ways we have been able to hold on to hope in circumstances that were truly hopeless. And so recognizing the consequences of those traumas, but also pulling on the resources and the wisdom that was cultivated in those spaces is an important part of our legacy.
Can you define generational trauma, and again, how is that passed down to generation to generation?
Yes. So generational trauma or intergenerational trauma is when one generation within a family or within a community experiences a trauma, and the effects of that are passed down to the next generation. And there are three primary ways that trauma can be passed down. One of them is physically. So we recognize trauma actually affects the brain. It changes the brain. And so when we look at the descendants of large-scale traumas, we see that different portions of the brain function in ways that are trying to sustain a sense of regulation, internal regulation. The good news is that not only does trauma affect the brain, but healing affects the brain. So the key word in that is something called neuroplasticity, which is the brain can change, which we would say the brain can heal, that we can heal, and that when we heal, we can then pass that down to the next generation. So not only does the trauma get passed down in terms of our physical bodies, it also gets passed down in the messages that we are taught. When you think about if your parents told you that you have to be twice as good, or if your parents told you to never let people see you cry, never let people read your emotions, to mask our emotions, that becomes a survival strategy that was taught. That is a way the trauma gets passed down, and also through modeling. So we see by example, the way those who came before us learned how to survive, sometimes by shrinking, by choosing silence, by working strategically, behind the scenes. And so we learned that through modeling. So for each of us, you want to think about the wounds that I carry may not have begun with me, but the wounds that I carry have, some of them predated me. And so what did I learn from those who came before me that is showing up in my life? What is the wisdom I want to hold on to? And what is the wound that I want to heal?
A lot of people my age, my wife's age, a little older, a little younger, are asking these questions about generational trauma, from family secrets to anything about the past. But the older generation seems to be kind of pushing back. Why is that?
Yes. So I'm glad you named this because intergenerational trauma is not only about racism or slavery, but any sort of trauma that those who came before you experienced. And so if your mother or grandmother experienced sexual assault, it affected the way she thought about her body, the way she thought about intimacy, the way she thought about trust. And then often those messages were directly or indirectly taught to you. If you came from a family where there was a lot of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, it had an impact. And that
Exactly. I think we talk about that every day because you see, people who stay in abusive relationships is because they have seen that growing up their whole lives. So your mind, it's like your mind is tuned or subjected to know. Because a good example is the women who say, if a man doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you. I don't understand how that is logical, how that even makes sense. I don't even understand that type of thinking. But there are women, because you grew up hearing your mom saying this or your dad saying this, you as a man, now you pass that, which is trauma, to your partner. You pass that trauma to your partner or your children because you've not been taught you can actually, it's healthy to have a healthy relationship. It's healthy to, arguments are there, but you can sit down and talk. It doesn't have
Exactly.
to
It's
get.
passed on trauma. It's not you're not supposed to be yes, right. Nobody's supposed to be putting their hands on you. Ever.
may show up in your dating life, in who you choose, the way you respond to people that you care for, and the way you respond when you are dishonored or disrespected. And so the impact of all of these different types of trauma affect the way we think about ourselves and the way we show up in the world. And as you named, in this generation, we have been talking more about mental health, but sometimes when you try to have those conversations with older members of our community, there can be some resistance. And a big part of that resistance is just lived experience that many did not have what I would call the luxury of therapy. They just learned how to stuff it, to push it in the back of their mind, to pray about it and just move forward. But one of the things that we know is avoiding speaking about it does not mean we have healed. Being busy does not mean we have healed. Volunteering and being super active in the church does not necessarily mean that we have healed.
Exactly.
And so it is an act of compassion and patience to be able to open the doors of those conversations, and some conversations that were never had, so they will be uncomfortable. But on the other side of the discomfort is our healing, is our wellness, is truth, because we know truth sets us free. And a lot of families, as you named, have been locked into secrets and silence, and it shows up in devastating ways. And so we want to create the safety and the space to be able to speak the truth.
Dr. Tama, why do people still carry the negative response or the negative connotation to mental health as it pertains to the legacy of slavery?
So one of the reasons why people will hold stigma about having mental health consequences of racism and of slavery is because our educational system has often diluted the realities of what enslavement was. And as long as we have history books and social studies books that give it one sentence, that say they were slaves and they were happy and then they were free and now they can be even happier, right? When we have that simplistic view, it does not make sense that it would have the sting and the consequence that it has. And so in order to remove the stigma or to raise awareness about these mental health consequences requires an actual truth telling and education about the process of enslavement. In South Africa, in the aftermath of apartheid, they created a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, a Truth and Reconciliation process, recognizing we cannot just say, let's move forward when we are still not telling the truth. And so it is the silence around the impact of slavery that has kept some from recognizing that the mental health consequences. In addition to that, is the reality that oftentimes there is this labeling of people who talk about racism as saying you're using an excuse. So some people will say, oh, it was a long time ago and you all shouldn't talk about it anymore. And that also is an act of racism, to say whose history is okay to talk about, is acceptable to talk about, and whose history must be silenced. And so to be able to counter the pressure for silence, to recognize that a part of our wellness, not only for Black people, but as a nation, that our wellness will require us being willing to speak the truth. The last thing I will say about the ongoing consequences is that the reality is, after the Emancipation Proclamation, and later than that, a year later, after Juneteenth, it is not as if Black people were then treated with fairness and with equity and with justice. So the reality is, even though we can look back on Juneteenth, we can look back on the Emancipation Proclamation, we have to look at over the generations, the systemic ways in which has been kept alive in every system. And this has been documented, so it's not just personal opinion. But when we look at the research, if people turn in an application for a home loan and you make the application identical, except you give one person a Black sounding name and give the other person what would be considered an American or traditional European name, then the person with the Black sounding name is less likely to receive the loan. The same thing if you apply for a job, if you apply for college, if you apply for housing. If the application is the same except for the name, we see this discrimination showing up. And so the consequences are not just because of our history, but also because of our present.
Doctor, I read an article a few weeks ago. It says we have overcome the physical barriers of slavery and racism, but how far have we come psychological and emotionally? That touched me in a way that I didn't even realize that could be touched. Why does it seem like we haven't came far?
Yeah. So Dr. Maya Angelou had a beautiful quote, which says, surviving is necessary, but thriving is elegant. And I think for a lot of us, we have been in survival mode, just trying to make it through the day, trying to make it through the year, trying to make it through the pandemic. And so when we are stuck in survival mode, which is in large part because of ongoing oppression, and I should mention, Black people are more likely to face intergenerational poverty, persistent poverty versus transient poverty. So it is not just a matter of, are we motivated? You can be motivated, but the resources and access to resources can be blocked. And so that can delay our growth, our wellness, our healing, and our thriving. And so it is important for us to create spaces where we can be honored, where we can heal, and when we can really tap into our strengths. And so for each of us, we can ask the question as we reflect on ourselves, have I just been surviving? And if I have been surviving, I want to appreciate that, because survival is important. And then what are the things that I need in my life that would create access and opportunity for me to flourish, for me to heal, for me to thrive? And I want to say a part of that is justice. Justice is therapeutic, right? That when there is fairness and equity, that can decrease some of the anxiety and the hypervigilance that we have. And so along with justice, I would say also creating permission and safe spaces for culturally congruent or culturally attuned therapeutic practices. And so for us to be willing to get the sessions, whether individual, couples, family, or group, that we are deserving and we are worthy of healing, of wholeness, and wellness.
How can we destigmatize mental health in the Black community?
One of the key ways to destigmatize mental health in our community are those who are gatekeepers or leaders in our community, role models in the community, to be willing to seek services and then to speak about it. So I'm based in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and when I have heard pastors speak to their congregation about going to therapy themselves, it frees up a lot of people to know, well, if pastor could go or pastor needed it, then maybe I could benefit from it too. We have also had in the past number of years, Black celebrities, whether actors or athletes, speaking up about mental health. And that helps to remove the stigma as well, that these are people I admire. These are people that I think of as smart or as strong or as successful. And they're saying that this can be a useful tool that we do not want to deny ourselves, and that can help to remove the stigma. And then I must say, on the side of psychology and mental health professionals, that it is important that when people take that
in mental health, let me say something. I don't want to say nothing. Let me say something again, Joe, real quick.
Someone who is culturally affirming.
Let me say something again. You got to learn how, because they made everything Black bad, and you not accepted as an African. That's why you got these pretendians, everybody running, and South Africans, because it's trauma. Glad Joby put this out there. That this is you're dealing with racial trauma of hating being Black, because everything was against Black people. You must claim back who you are and step in pride of being African. You must wear that with pride and be unashamed. Be unashamed to be Black. You got to step back into Blackness and be unashamed to be it. You know, because you've been shamed about being African. You can't be ashamed of who you are. So you got to take that back, and that starts to help you heal. Because if you don't, that's why Black people suffer what? Self-hate. We have self-hate because we were conquered by savages, and they taught us to hate ourselves. So we gotta, accept who you are, and then learn to love who you are. You must love your Africanness, love your Blackness. But that's it, Joe. I'm done.
And who pays attention to culture and recognizes the realities of oppression so that they are not further harmed in the mental health system.
I did a little research on the civil rights movement and mental health back then. It wasn't a lot of information there. Can you talk a little bit about the civil rights movement and the mental health process then?
Yes. So one of the things that we want to keep in mind when we consider the civil rights movement is the role psychologically of hope and faith. So often when I mention psychology, or when other people mention psychology, we usually think about the illness, mental illness, or pathology. So you might think about addiction, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. But there is another aspect of psychology called positive psychology, where we look at the attributes that help us to cope, heal, and thrive. And so two of those attributes that we can see very actively in the civil rights movement are hope and faith. So what allows us to keep moving forward, what allows us to keep working toward progress, there has to be a piece of us, and we would say, even if it's the size of a mustard seed, that there's a part of me that believes that things can be better, that they can be better for me as an individual, for my family, and for the larger community, and for this nation. And when I believe that, it allows me to stay engaged and to know this other piece of faith without works is dead. So even if I have hope and faith, then what are the concrete actions that I'm doing to make things better? So what we saw in the civil rights movement was collective action. So while we might highlight particular leaders like Dr. King, we would also recognize that there is no impact of king if there are not an army, if there's not an army of collective people who are willing to be actively engaged in the movement. And so for each of us, we want to think about feeding
And let me make one thing clear. See, they always go back to that king. You know, see that's how she's propagandized. We've been propagandized with this MLK shit. You sure she wasn't even born with MLK just like me when all that stuff was going on? We've been propagandized to say that that was the pinnacle of justice, and it's not. We were lulled back to sleep. That was the plot by the Jays to destroy us, and it has. By every matrix, take out your emotions. By every metric of upperly mobility and healing, we are behind now. We're worse off. We're less intelligent. Most of our kids can't speak proper English. They can't talk. They're ignorant. They're stupid, like that guy Joby Show with that MAGA hat. Most of our youth are morons. When before that, most of our youth were geniuses because they were being taught by black women. Now you're getting taught by white women who hate your ass. So it's not. So how's your enemy going to teach you to overthrow them? They got you in the pressure. It's not in their benefit to teach our babies. So that's why we're dumber today than we were when our mothers, than our grandparents were growing up. We're dumber. Every matrix tells you this. So they keep the hey, Martin Luther King and all that else, but you just take out the emotion and the propaganda and go by the matrix. Are we better off in health? No, we're worse. Are we better off in education? No, we're worse. Are we better off in wealth? No, we're worse. Are we better off in home ownership? No, we're worse. Are we better off in jobs and ownership? We're worse. Every matrix, we're worse. So why are we propping up and giving a praise to a system that didn't work? Oh, you keep seeing these handkerchief head Negroes keep talking about MLK. And Malcolm X told you this is all fake and phony and what was going to happen. And he was right. We're worse off today than we were 60 years ago, guys. This is factual. It's the same thing doing with Africa. They're coming back in to recolonize Africa to put it back in slavery over there. This is what's happening globally. But what? We've been given all kind of fake heroes, Nelson Mandela's and all this old crazy shit. It's all fake. And shout out to Dr. Henry Clark. If somebody's worshiping somebody in your community, shout out to even Troy learned that you said that. If the white man is worshiping somebody that's black, you already know they sold you out. Okay? Shout out to us. Samora Michelle said that in Mozambique. If the white man starts to worship me, you know I done sold you out. So we know the white man worships MLK, Nelson Mandela, and all these things were sellouts. But go ahead, Joby.
But then saying, once that is nourished, how do I want to show up in order to contribute to progress? And that is an important piece that despite our fears, despite our anxiety, despite even depression and grief, that I want to be a part of the solution. And that's what we see from the example of the civil rights movement.
How can we help those people who are in that generation, who our generation are seeing the resistance there when it comes to having those tough conversations? How can we help them talk about these things?
So one of the things that is helpful whenever you want to consider confrontation or a difficult dialogue, is there anything praiseworthy, right? If we are coming to someone for a conversation and we only have the complaint, it will be hard for the person to hear it. So it's like with any relationship, if someone knows that I am their friend or that I care about them, then even if I have some difficult feedback to give them, they know that it is given, that I am sharing it or speaking it from a place of compassion. So if you want to speak with family members or elders in the community about some things that were done that were not good or were not healthy or that you think should not have happened, I would encourage you to also think about, is there anything they got right? Right? So for some of us, you would say, oh, my parents or grandparents didn't prepare me for this because we did not have this conversation. Okay, so that is some honest feedback that you want to give them. And I would just raise the question, Is there anything that you appreciated about their parenting? Is there anything that you learned from them? And you don't have to lie about it. If there's nothing, there's nothing. But for many of us, people are complicated and layered, and there may be some good stuff that went along with the things that were problematic. And if we can share all of that, it creates a space for people to better be able to hear the concerns that we want to raise. And the last thing I'll just say about confrontation is to really be liberated from needing a certain response from people.
Well, personally, I'd say unity is very important among us, the Black people. She mentioned something about how we've been taught to compete instead of working together, and that has been a big division. I'd say a good example in Africa with the tribes. When another tribe
Exactly
or
what
a
you
leader,
said. Exactly.
something is being done good for their community, they go bashing the other tribe because their leader is not doing anything. What if we worked in unity and ensure that each person meets the same needs in equality? That is the problem, and a problem we need to solve as Africans. We need to
How about
create
that?
institutions that are funded by us, institutions that are going to be changing the system of education, which will benefit us and the next generation. We need to change kill this Christian or religion mindset and empower people, empower Black people, Black children to see the best out of themselves instead of always focusing on a white man you don't even know if they exist, for them to drop blessings on your hand. Where did you hear that? Magic does not exist in this world as much as it does, but you gotta work for it. So that is what I believe Africans need to do. We need to create our own institution. The fact that we still want to depend in this system that has been created by the white person, we'll continue talking about the same problems. Mental health or the trauma are still going to be passed from generations to generation. There is a change. People are, of course, waking up, tapping into information, but we still yet to get there. We're quite a little bit far to get to where we
It's
want
come
to
along.
see our
Yeah. You're taking back your African sovereignty, and being unapologetic, like you're saying. So it's going to take a little time, and it's a system completely designed to exploit, to extract, and destroy African people. It's wicked. It's on a wicked. It's so deeply wicked.
Exactly. But as we literally get closer to winding up, shout out to Jibajaba, thank you for being here. Shout out to Joe Mosquito. I see Mr. Noisy Tall. Shout out to you, Jarake, as well. And to all the silent listeners, kindly hit the like button before we leave. Subscribe if you're here for the first time. I think today we might be doing the show after all because the network is not up and working. So I don't think we're going to be having a move.
Mr. Noto, the bank is not. I'm not able to pay that bill. They keep until I'm able to work out to pay the bill. Our TV part is down. So, but Mr. No, you've been looking at a lot of the internet. Those are so. Understand? I want you to say something, Mr. Know-it-all. But understand? No, that's not true. What you're saying is an internet beef of what people call themselves FBA. That's not Black Americans. Most Black Americans reject this FBA movement. It's rejected. So you got to understand the Joe we just showed you. You got to be smart enough to know those divisions are pushed on purpose to divide and conquer. So you got to know what you're looking at. You can't fall into propaganda. What you're seeing on the internet are algorithms being pushed to disunify Black people, and that's just not true. What you see is what we would call a psyop, right? So you think that all Black Americans will be left alone and don't care. That's a lie. See, that's not happening. That's not on the ground. So that's what you see on the internet. So what you're seeing is not true. So that's what make you understand how propaganda, how strong they are to make sure we stay divided. So what you're seeing is not real. Because I'm gonna have to do that one time. I'm just going since I go everywhere. I'm just stop and take my phone out and stream. Let you see Black Americans. Most of them don't know what the hell that is. Most of them don't agree with that, but you see it so big on TikTok and Twitter, and you think that's the norm. That's a false megaphone through the internet and social media, but it's not the reality on the ground. Okay? That's not the reality on the ground. So remember, who controls the social media? Your enemies do. So they want to push out that divisional conflict to you. You think that's the norm, and it's not. So they want to push that out. Okay, so understand, they want to push that out there. So you think that's the norm, and think this division is the norm because it benefits them. See, when you keep black people divided, since black people, especially in Africa, own all the wealth of the world, they need Africans divided so they can keep stealing from them. As Joby showed, that's what happened to Nigeria. They came in and started dividing them, and that's destroyed Nigeria. They started, like Joby just talked about the tribalism, even in Kenya. They did that specifically in Nigeria, that it caused a civil war. But that was on purpose, and the white man caused that, purposely took, he caused that. So Nigeria wouldn't, like Joey said, unite and become a threat and a power to oppose Britain. They said Nigeria would become too strong. So understand what you're looking at. When you see all this division, you think it's real. No, that's called astroturf. It's fake grass. Because something, you got real grass, you got fake grass. Fake grass is called astroturf. So when you look at social media, those are astroturf movements. They're fake. They're not they're not organic. They're not grown by black people. You say, oh, these African Americans hate other black people and they want to separate. No. And that's what the algorithm is pushing you to see. And if you go start training your algorithm, if you're on TikTok or Twitter, to the black Americans that are pushing back on this FBA movement, a bunch of them. They're in the majority, but they're not going to be shown because the white world or the white rulership class doesn't want you to see us having unity, like Joby just said. Our unity is their downfall. That's why they divided up Africa. Why they made all these goofy countries? Because your unity is your power, and they want to stop that at all costs. Remember, they've got rich off of African people, whether they've been in slavery or whether they've been in colonization, stealing their lands, their wealth. So your division keeps everybody wealthy. But I'm done.
Yeah, but yeah, I also see Jabba was saying, I was taught not to show emotions and be serious. It created lifelong issues. I think that's majority of the men being taught, especially black men, or you
that's trauma.
Emotions, cry and all that. And see, Jarake was saying religion and celebrity will lead to mental health. Looking up to them.
True.
Yeah.
It's true because mental health issues. It's like Joby in the church. You guys always dream about when I first got Joby. And I always had this dream, I don't know why, when I first told Joby that Jesus wasn't real. And I remember Joby's face. And I wake up sometimes and laugh because Joby says like, what? Joby says like, what the hell have I come to?
Yeah, I was really I was fucked up to quit. I wanted to quit. I was like,
so that's how deep. But Joby's able to see. But Joby's one person that's able to get over it because she was questioned. But that mental slavery goes deep. So you guys, like I told Joby, give people a little grace that she had to have to get where she's at. Because it's scary. It's a scary thing. We're going, Joby.
Jarake says no African-centered revolutionary education, just this Prussian Neanderthal process.
That's right. There's no, like Joby said, there's no, except for Ibram Torres is now making it. There's no African education nowhere on the planet. Can you imagine this? We're the majority of the people. And all our history's been is, no, you can't do no history. You can't do no African shit. So imagine how crazy it's on the whole planet. That the only ones now making an African curriculum is Ibram Torres. And that's why they're trying to kill his ass. Can you imagine this? And we're not allowed to be African.
He also says we will continue to suffer mental issues as long as we are around them and under their concept. Exactly the same thing.
True, Joe.
We have to change that. And I see Jarake says she is a very cookie cutter and safe even with the beautiful melanin makeup and the locks.
Oh yeah, she's cookie cutter because I remember to be in this size, they can never go. That's why you gotta be careful with the academics because they're still taught by white people. They still talk about what the white people still in their schools being teaching them. So a lot of these academics like, nah, they're never gonna come with the whole truth because remember they gotta hold back because they need jobs by white people.
And I see Mr. Norris Tall says Black Americans are clearly saying that they don't want to unite. They want to be left alone by everyone but themselves. I think those are the FBAs, like Kid said. And Jackie says, our father. Yeah, the average Black has no clue on FBA. Black Americans have over 50,000 patent inventions. They are superior people, true or false? I believe that should be true, but not just Black Americans, but Africans. I believe Africans all over, most of the innovations has been done by the Black man. The white man just took it over and
steals it.
Yeah.
It
So I
steals
don't
it.
think it's just the Black Americans only. Africans. So long as you're African, hey, you got some superpower that you just don't know. And Jiba Jaba says we are like a rope, many strands strong. Once it frays, it gets weaker and breaks. Joby threw that blonde wig out of the window. Yeah, I gave it to someone. I gave it to someone else. I give it that, so you don't see me wearing it. I give it to someone else.
I never seen her wear it, but you're right. I used to, with a Nicki Minaj wig looking crazy. All that deep, dark, delicious melanin with a blonde wig looking crazy as cat shit.
But it wasn't really blonde. It was not like Iwaton's blonde type wigs,
Yeah, airtime shit get ridiculous too.
Very much love. That has been my conversation for today. I hope you guys have learned a thing or two. I do believe that information or videos or the topic we've talked about should make you understand something, especially when it comes to our Black people. The Black mental health is serious. The slavery trauma is really, really still existing. And like the sister said, be easy on people, be easy on, and Kita said, be gracious with people, be patient with people on learning. Because personally, I get agitated. I'm not gonna lie when I'm talking to someone and they're so dumb, like trying to fathom with the information I'm giving them. I'm like, man, I'm done with this. But again, I remember them, I'm not. Everyone is not intelligent and open-minded like I am. People are into themselves.
Exactly. You get what you can, and if you can't reach them, then you walk away. You don't keep beating your head against the wall, but you give it to them, and if they can't process it, you let them be. Like took a while for me to get airtime. Airtime was harder than Joby. Airtime was going, I'm not gonna let you change me, Mr. Newsome. Okay, I'm gonna tell you go look it up. Go find it. So exactly. So give people grace, understand, because like I said, when I first heard it, it scared me to death too. I was like, what? Are you crazy? So I understand. We've been mentally colonized, guys. So it's a process. But when you do get free, God dang, it's a wonderful feeling to be free of fake religions. You ain't got that fear no more in your heart. All that shit's lies. You're gonna be sinful. Hell, you gotta give your money to some goopy church. It's a great feeling.
It is a great feeling. But have a beautiful rest of your morning. We're coming back with the rhythm scripture, so catch us up and see what you're gonna be talking about. And later on, we have the Africa Today show. I guess.
Yeah, we got the Africa Today show because I can't get checked with the damn bank to pay this bill. Then it's the end of the month. I don't want to pay the bill now until next month, to the beginning of the month, because I don't want to pay for a month that's going to end next Friday. Like shit, I might as well just keep it off until the end of the month. I don't want to pay the $100 today, and then next week I got to pay another $100. I just paid $100 next week. And talk to the bank and make sure it gets paid. Shit.
I thought if you pay today, it should carry itself forward to till then. Next day.
No, that's not how shit works, Joe. Hell no. You pay for the month that you didn't pay for. You're not going. Don't be thinking about justice and fairness. No.
I'm thinking about it because, like a good example, like Wi-Fi. If you don't pay Wi-Fi on time, you can. If you pay maybe late, then the whole data internet carries itself till the exact date when you paid. I don't know if it makes sense.
That's nice. That's nice. That's cool. Not in America, don't. Not here. Not nowhere here. You don't. You don't pay. Okay. We're already 3 weeks, but didn't pay. I talked to the bank. They still. And I don't know. Every time, it was on automatic, and then the bank would stop. It'd be on automatic payment. Just come out of my account, and then it just stopped for no reason. I'm like, what? You guys ain't pay this thing? Then I had to call. Said, are you trying to get the fast cash TV thing? Like I said, yes. It was automatic. Why do you guys keep taking out an automatic payment? Why do you guys keep doing this? Then I gotta call you and it's late. And then eventually they gonna turn it off because it's late. And then it's like now I'm like, man, you know what? It ain't but another month until I gotta pay for it again. So why the hell? And they won't think about Joby says, okay, we're gonna let you pay it now, and then it's gonna continue until next month at this time. Nah, Joby, you pay it now, it's gonna go off next Monday. I mean the 1st. You're going to pay it again.
That's theft of the highest level. But much love, family.
That's called business, Joe. That's what they do.